Instead, they went around where there was less of a population of the followers of Maktab Ahl-e-Bait. Therefore, they didn't want any sort of upheaval. They didn't want anyone protesting or any of those things to come about. So they brought Imam Fitna. On the contrary, when MASOOMA travels, she chooses the route where there's majority of the followers of Ahl-e-Bait. And therefore she goes through Kufa and she passes by Saweh, which is near home, and that's where she falls sick. And then she was brought into the city of Qum. She spent 17 days in the city of Qum, and that's where her Shahada takes place, or Wafat takes place. And we know with Ijaz, our 8th Imam and our 9th Imam came to perform the last rituals of this lady. But we've heard about this history and we've known, and there's not more than beyond this history of hers and all that. But the real crux of what we can understand from her personality is 5 points that I want to leave you with today. Number 1, love for family and absolute following. That is something that you find in not all of the family members, but there were people from the children of 6th Imam who went away, who were, started a path of their own, for example. Primarily how? Because there were people who would go ahead and instigate. They would go ahead and tell them that you are the son of Imam and you are also very knowledgeable and you can also start your own following, and so on and so forth. Today, in the world as well, many influential people, by virtue of them being influential, their children are already automatically influential. The family, the royal family of United Kingdom, the children and the grandchildren are automatically royal. And so they're known, and they're leaders, born leaders if you want to call them. They can start and they'll have a large following. So this is something where you see that in the time of Imams as well, it was a big problem. A lot of these people were not infallible. But because virtue of being in the house of Imam, they're now being approached by people in the society to go ahead and grab them, and sometimes to take them away from the path of Imam, give them importance on their own so that they could deviate and they could go ahead and start some sort of deviation and distraction in the religion of Maktab Ahl-e-Bait. So, at that point, having all that is still to be able to show your loyalty and still be able to show your love for your family and stand by, even though you yourself are already at a maqam, which she did possess herself, is something which is an attribute without any other attributes, that the love for the family and the complete following and tabi'iyat toward her family. Number 2, she was a genuine scholar. She was danishmand waqi'i. Why? We mentioned this as well in that story that we had recited, that how people came and asked questions. Forget that story. That is something which children of Ahl-e-Bait were able to do. Look at the barakat. Now, there are certain things that are done by a person themselves. But then there are certain things which are the repercussions and the consequences of those individuals. Look at the barakat of this lady who, I don't want to say anything accidentally, she came to the city known as Qum. Just like Sayyid al-Shuhada, who was martyred in Karbala, the Khak of Karbala became Khak al-Shifa. Janabe MASOOMA Qum spent 17 days in the city of Qum, and what is Qum today? It is the place of martyrdom. It is the maqam where the ulum Muhammad flourished, right? This is where you have the greatest of the scholars came about in the past so many centuries, right? And so this is the barakat of this lady, and I'll mention some hadith to back it up by our Imam MASOOMA. So her second attribute is that she was a genuine scholar, always established with the blessings of her presence only for a couple of weeks, and look at it today. Whom became the beacon of light as far as Islamic studies are concerned, produced some of the biggest of the scholars of time, and that's why Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wa alihi wasallam. Someone who's seeking knowledge amongst the ignorant is like the one who is alive amongst the dead. So that there's you're amongst the dead bodies in a morgue. All the dead bodies are there. 100 dead bodies in the morgue, and you're the only person alive. It's like is the same way amongst those who are literally alive. They are considered juhal, the ignorant ones. Look at the comparison that Rasulullah did. He said, إِذَا عَلِمَ, but things get difficult for this alim as well. إِذَا عَلِمَ الْعَالِمُ فَلَمْ يَعْمَلْ كَانَ كَالْمِصْبَاحِ يُضِيءُ لِلنَّاسِ وَيُغْرِقُ نَفْسَهُ. But on the contrary, if a scholar who does not act upon his knowledge is like a niche, providing light for the people but burning himself. What does the niche do? It's providing light for everyone that is in the surrounding. People are able to see because of this candle. But what is this candle doing to itself? Slowly and gradually burning itself. Rasulullah said, if you don't act on your own knowledge, then you're just like that niche which is doing that. So famous event we mentioned regarding how she had been able to answer the question. One question that is surrounding her is in regards to how she remained unmarried. And that is the case in reference to many of the daughters of our seventh Imam. Our seventh Imam was Kathirul Awlad. He had, it's mentioned in Riwayat, to have 36, 37 children. With that, many of them were daughters. The majority of them remained unmarried. Was it something that Imam was trying to, leave an example that remaining celibate and not marrying is something which is a tradition? No, that is not the case. No riwayat were brought in that era of seventh Imam which produced and which talk about that marrying is something which should be neglected. No, if anything, Islam emphasizes a great deal on getting married. All those hadith that we have from our Prophet, and all these other riwayat and hadith in mentioning that man tazawwaja faqad ahraza nisfa dinihi, whoever got married and he secured half their faith, falyattaqillah fi nisfil baqi, fear Allah for the remaining half. And whoever wants to meet Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala should meet him in the state of purity, meaning with their spouse. All of these riwayat are still intact, and this was not the case, that Imam is not following the sunnah of Rasul. So what is the reason that person like MASOOMA remained unmarried until she passed away? And it wasn't the fact that she died in infancy or she died at an early age. If she was born in the year 173, she died in the year 200. So she was 27 years old. And it was customary at that time in Arabia for the girls to be married by the age they're 13 or 14 or 15 years old. So there was plenty of time for her to get married. There are two possible answers that are given, and then the third answer is something which is absolutely wrong. So two answers are something which we can take. The third one we decline. What is the first answer? The first answer is that there wasn't any QUM of BIBI MASOOMA at that time who can marry her because of her status. So amongst the children of Imam Haftum, she had that exalted place like her brother, Imam Rama. So because of that, there was no QUM. There was no compatibility as far as anyone else in that time, so she remained unmarried. That's one answer. You can say, well, sure, that is possible. We don't know the history, what was going on. Second answer is that Harun, before the migration of Imam, and in the time of seventh Imam, was keeping a very close eye on our seventh Imam. And there was so much scrutiny and there was so much surveillance that was happening. That is the time when the concept of dissimulation and the concept of taqiyya really played out, right? If you see panning out of the concept of taqiyya, it's in the time of our seventh Imam. That's when really taqiyya came into practice. Prior to that, hardly you will see someone practicing taqiyya, dissimulation, hiding your faith. It is more so in the time of seventh Imam. That's when really taqiyya's practice began. Why so? Because Harun al-Rashid, who was hunting down people who were seen with our seventh Imam, or those who were in the company of seventh Imam, they were being persecuted, they were being killed, and because of those atrocities, Imam himself said to the people, stay away from me. I don't want you to be hanging out with me. I don't want you to be in my closer circle, because if you are spotted being in my closer circle, then you could be persecuted as well. If people are staying away from seventh Imam, you think there will be a lot of proposals coming for his daughters. So that is one of the reasons why she remained unmarried. The third answer that sometimes people give is that because she was daughter of Imam, hence she was a Sayyida, and there was no other Sayyid available, so she did not get married. that is rubbish, that is not the real answer, that is not acceptable, because there's so many examples of the daughters of Masoomin marrying those who were not amongst the Sadat. Sallu ala Muhammad wa So I mentioned 2 of our attributes, 3rd, 4th, and 5th, and inshallah we'll conclude. Shuja'at, bravery. We talk about women today and their valor, and we speak about the valor and the bravery of those who were present in Karbala, leading by example DARWAZA and other women of Karbala. The bravery that they showed and the leadership of BIBI Zainab, especially after the events of Karbala, where she is now leading the whole caravan from Karbala to Kufa to Sham and back home. So this was something which ran in their blood. It was there. And whenever the time would call for it, they would stand up for it. But they were the same women. The neighbor would not even know that there's a daughter that Ali has for the 40 years of his life. They did not even know that there was a Zainab that existed in the house of Ali ibn Abi Talib all these years in Medina. Until, of course, he sees that Zainab is now marching from city to city. Similar is the case with MASOOMA. Hardly stepped out of the house, but nonetheless, when it was needed and required, look at the bravery in that time, traveling all that distance just so that she could be with the Imam of the time. And of course, because of her bravery, not just in traveling, that was also a time where there was a lot of ban on narrating ahadith. For someone to have the courage and to relate so many ahadith and the traditions from Ahl-e-Bait and leading up to our Prophet, that itself shows the braveness of this great lady. So there's a lesson for our daughters, that they shouldn't feel that it's not their duty to spread Islam. There's daughters like this that are present in the household of Ahl-e-Bait that did their part as far as explaining the religion is concerned and expanding it. Therefore, don't think that it is only the duty of the men that treat people who are dressed up like this, and we have nothing to do with spreading this religion. Number 4, Hamiya Vilayat. She was complete and full supporter of the wilayat of the Imam of her time. First, our 7th Imam, then Imam Ali ibn Musa alayhi salatu wassalam. So we see that the wilayat of Imam is tested in people's heart. And that's where a lot of time people fail to fulfill this. Although MASOOMA died at a very young age of 28, but until her death, she kept on defending her brother as the rightful Imam. Do we have the same courage to stand up for the Imam of our time? Forget the Imam of our time. The issues that Imam of our time would want us to stand up for today, do we have the courage to speak about those? A lot of time, we shy away from many of these things. Things that are happening in Gaza now. The chapter has closed on Gaza, sort of. Now it's started on Rafah. And what will be next? And what will be next? And of course, with all the pressure the international community was putting upon it, all that pressure is, thrown out the window by Netanyahu, who addressed it very clearly, saying that regardless of who is standing with us or who's not standing with us, we're going to continue doing what we are doing. So it's sort of like challenging the entire world in the status quo that, we rule the world and we control everything. You can do whatever it is that you want. So if they're able to do this and still Muslimin are shying away from it and they're unable to put their work together to be able to condemn it first and foremost, now I think it has gone beyond condemnation. But again, see where the pressure comes about, right? You just saw in the news the other day that even those 501c3 non-profit organizations, if they are caught condemning Israel or they're caught condemning any of these activities, their 501c3 status could be at stake. So now, standing up here on this mimbar, if I'm speaking about this, and if I say something which is going to be anti-Semitic, according to their perspective, because we don't say anything that is anti-Semitic, but according to their perspective, it is going to be anti-Semitic, then, of course, they can come back to us and they can challenge our 501c3 status and non-for-profit status, because everything is going online. So this is where we see sometimes how we fail, and sometimes there's more courage that is needed. MASOOMA displayed that that she was always hani of wilayat, regardless of how difficult the situations were. And the last thing is the talash and farawan, effort and perseverance. Never give up, continue. If you have this will to continue and keep on doing, the perseverance is there. That is something which you find in the kirdar, in the character of MASOOMA. She reached this status through her own willingness and the tawfiq from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, because Imam Musa Kazim had other daughters, but she's the only one known as Karima Ahl-e-Bait. Right? Imam had other daughters. Do you know about other daughters? I'm sure many of us may not even be able to name other daughters of Imam Musa Kazim. Right? How did she develop this? This is her own willingness, determination, hard work, perseverance, koshish, and tawfiq from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. If we just say, well, Allah will give us tawfiq and we'll do this. No, you gotta start first for the tawfiq of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to come to you. You can't just wait idly with hands on hands that Allah will give us a tawfiq one day and we'll go ahead and do hajj, and we'll go ahead and do ziyarat, and we'll go ahead and give this, or we'll go ahead and do this and that. No, tawfiq will happen when you take the first step. Show your willingness, your eagerness, your enthusiasm, and then wait for the tawfiq from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. I'll conclude with a couple of hadiths in regards to the importance of visitation of MASOOMA. Just one hadith in this regard is enough from our sixth Imam, Imam Ja'far al-Sadiq. Imam said, remember, there is a haram for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and that is the Kaaba. There's a haram for Rasulullah, and that is Madinatul Munawwara. There's a haram for Amir al-Mu'mineen, that is in the city of Kufa. And then there's haram for me and my children, and that is in QUM. Imam ﷺ places this place where MASOOMA was there. And the reason he's calling that to be the haram is because of the wujud. She hasn't been born yet. This is Imam Shisham, sixth Imam, who passed away in the year 148. MASOOMA will be born in the year 173. This is 25 years prior, at least 25 years prior to her birth. Imam is saying what? He said, let it be known that the haram for me and my children is QUM. QUM is a smaller Kufa for us. Paradise has 8 doors, 3 of them open towards QUM. And then Imam said, why? What is the reason? He said, تُقْبَضُ فِيهَا إِمْرَأَةٌ مِنْ وُلْدِي اسْمُهَا فَاطِمَةٌ بِنْتُ مُوسَى تَدْخُلُ بِشَفَاعَتِهَا شِيعَةِ الْجَنَّةِ بِأَجْمَعِهِمْ. He said, so a lady from my offspring by the name of Fatima, daughter of Musa, will die in that land, and through her intercession, her followers will enter the paradise. And that's what you recite as far as her ziyarat nama is concerned. When you go for her ziyarat, one of the important lines in the ziyarat nama of Bibi MASOOMA is Ya Fatimatu Ishfa'ili fil Jannah fa inna laki indallahi sha'nun min ash-shan. O Fatima, do our intercession and shafa'at in the day of judgment near Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, because you have this sha'an near Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala which no one else has. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to give us the tawfiq to be able to live up to the expectations of MASOOMA salamullahi alayha. Allah give us the ability to do her ziyarah bima'rifatiha, and also Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala bestow upon us the shafa'at of MASOOMA salamullahi alayha. Inna ahsan hadith wa abadakum idha kitabullahi wa billahi min shaitanir rajim. Bismillahir rahmanir rahim. Al-asr innal insana lafi khusr illa alladhina amanu wa 'amilus salihati wa tawassaw bil haqqi wa tawassaw bis sabr.